الله أكبر الله 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 أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I'm SAJ Butt. Welcome to tonight's edition of SAJ Mahal, the title of which is Priti Patel nil, Kashif Iqbal 130,000. I'm sure you all know who Priti Patel is, but you must be wondering who's Kashif Iqbal. And I must admit, so did I. And those of you who watched last week's program may recall me giving a shout out to say, Kashif Iqbal, who are you? Where are you? Please get in touch. And that's exactly what's happened, miraculously, through somebody who we hope to be speaking to at a later part of the program. We've got in touch, we've got hold of him. He's our chief guest today. Very quickly, welcome to Kashif Iqbal. Kashif, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, Sad, I can hear you. Thank you very much. How are you?
Thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you. I'll bring you back in later on, but what I want to do is just talk a little bit about our democracy. Now, this is obviously something you, Kashif, have been able to exercise your democratic right and set up this petition. Winston Churchill voted once upon a time in the recent past as the greatest Briton ever. I appreciate he's a bit of a controversial figure, especially his role in a certain famine in India, his racist attitudes. However, I will, at a future date, I promise, do a full program on him, his career, his achievements, his perhaps not so healthy approach to different races, and the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust, which carries on his legacy. So that's for future. But Winston Churchill famously, talking about democracy, said, it is the worst form of government, apart from all the other ones that have been tried. So, despite Churchill's cynicism or reservations, democracy has established itself. It's been recognized as the best form of government, universally accepted. So, a very basic, powerful idea which, irrespective of one's race, color, creed, indeed social status, enables an individual to exercise their rights, to protest against decisions perhaps they're not happy with, or to support the ones that they are. However, over time, individuals have become rather dubious, doubtful, maybe even cynicism about their right to have a vote. And quite often we hear the term, well, what difference is my one vote going to make? Well, throughout history, there have been some amazing, spectacular examples where one vote has actually made a difference. One voice has made a difference. And this is where we'll bring in Kashif. So, first and foremost, here in the UK, Oliver Cromwell famously beheaded the then king, King Charles I, beheaded him, and that decision was taken by one vote. You may or may not know, the USA, when it won its independence from Great Britain, had a session to decide which language they were going to adopt as their national language. You won't believe it. It was one vote that got the decision to have English as the language. The language that came second, remarkably, was German. I mean, can you imagine all those Hollywood movies that you watch, all those actors, all those movies would be in German. Singers from Elvis to the Eagles to the rappers of the day would be singing in German. So, one vote can make a difference. One person can make a difference. Finally, just one example. Adolf Hitler, famously won his party's election as leader by just one vote. So, this is where Kashif comes in. Kashif is one individual who's taken that decision, taken that step to initiate this petition. Now, Kashif, welcome again. Before we talk about what made you initiate the petition and what you're hoping to achieve, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. I know you were born in the Northeast, you lived in London for a number of years, and finally you're settled, at the moment anyway, in Glasgow in Scotland. So welcome again, Kashif. Thank you very much for joining us. Tell me more about yourself, Kashif the man, and what your background is.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on your program, Saj. So yeah, I was born in Teesside, as you mentioned. Lived the majority of my teenage and adult years in London before I moved to Glasgow, where I'm permanently settled now, thank God. So yeah, my background, as I was mentioning before, I worked in obviously masjids in London, helping the youth learn Quranic, Arabic and Islamic studies. So I've always been passionate about issues that matter to the community. So obviously this issue that came up with regards to the Nationalities and Borders Bill obviously affects me, being Asian and Muslim and being born in this country. And it affects hundreds of thousands of other similar people.
Just very quickly, Kashi, I'm going to interrupt you. I should have done this earlier before you got going. Dear viewers, as always, you're a very important part of the program. Live call, our lines are open. The usual number is 0161 529 0161 529 9455. So please do pick up the phone and make your call. So back to you, Kashif. Sorry about that. So what I wanted to ask was, I mean, do you participate? And I mean, quite often I was checking, I hadn't realized I'd signed up to, over my lifetime, over 20 petitions. There's always some good cause. I mean, is that something you do regularly, or is this one particular that really motivated you because you felt so passionate about what Priti Patel was trying to do?
Yeah, I'd say I've definitely signed many petitions, especially, you know, where I feel there's some level of injustice that is happening around the world, and I should put my name down, you know, to bring about positive, lasting change. So I think we all do that from time to time. But as you mentioned, the reason this petition, you know, so hits at home is because, especially if you look at the bill, the Nationality and Borders Bill, it impacts draconianly British Asian Muslims. You know, and it basically is designed to make people born in this country migrants in their own country, where you work, where you pay taxes, where you contribute, where, you know, essentially you will die and even get buried. So it takes that away from you. So obviously that's very personal. So obviously something has to be done about it. Instead of just complaining to friends and family, real lasting change can only come when you put, you know, pen to paper, or in these days, you know, you start typing on the computer and get in touch with your MP. So what I did was, obviously, when the news was quite fresh, almost 2 weeks ago, I started the petition, as you know, on change.org, which mashallah has got now, I think, over 130,000 signatures when I last checked about an hour ago. Yeah, thank you. So it's obviously a massive thank you to all your viewers and people out there around the UK that signed up for this. But I think this is the first step, because the real power obviously lies with your MP. And everybody, inshallah, you know, needs to get in touch with the MP and make this known. But yeah, going back to your question, it's an issue that I'm very passionate about, as I'm sure many of your viewers will be passionate about, especially if they know the harms that this bill, if it gains royal assent and approval, can bring about to the daily lives.
Okay, like you mentioned actually that it affects Muslims in particular, or specifically Muslims. I mean, obviously, I do all the time. I mean, my noble hobby, evening time, would be looking at football results and gossip around football and looking at the league tables to see where my team is. But all I've done for the last 2 weeks is, Kashi, I follow your petition, you know, how many more people have signed up and so forth. So even though I was writing my notes up this morning when it was about 125, I wrote, it must be 130 by the time our program goes out live this evening. But one thing I noticed, and this is what I want to touch on, is that it's not just Muslims who are signing up. I noticed there's a
Yes.
lot of, especially Sikh names that come up. I haven't spotted, maybe Hindu names aren't as easy to spot, but there's a lot of Sikh people who are signing up to this.
You're right. You're right. Bang on. I mean, I checked as well, and I get an Excel sheet of pretty much every single name there. I mean, 130,000 plus at the moment. It's just going up, mashallah.
Yeah.
And obviously, you'd expect a lot of Muslim names on there, but there's a massive amount of Caucasian, you know, people from the black community, because it affects the ethnic, the minority as well, obviously, which is not just Asian Muslims, but it's a big community. And you're right. In the last few days, the Sikh community has obviously caught onto this as well, and it's just snowballing. And the good news is today, the organizers from change.org, the people who manage the petition website, they were in touch with me today. And the bill is going to go for its third reading. Then it goes for a few more readings before it gains royal assent.
So do you know when it's going up for the third reading?
No, but what they mentioned to me, it's fairly soon. It's fairly soon. I'll do an update on the petition website as soon as I know. Everyone will get an email who signed up to the petition, so they'll know. But the reason this stage is so critical is because this is the stage where people can influence, you know, lobby your MP to do something about this, right? Because if you don't talk to your MP now, and your MP doesn't know this problem exists, because let's be honest, MPs are very busy people. They have lots of work to do. Then if it becomes a law, you can't do anything about it. So this is the time for change, because to be honest with you, there's so many people in this country that are from an ethnic minority background who can make a change, but it's only a matter of doing it.
So, Kashif, I mean, I assume this is the first time perhaps you've initiated a petition, is that correct?
No, I have initiated a petition previously. That was, I think, with regards to the Palestinian cause. I forgot the direct, the wording and what it was for, but that was quite a while ago. Obviously, there's some sort of injustice happening there, and I think that gained a few thousand traction. But yeah, this one's completely different.
How do you feel? I mean, I imagine this has gone beyond your wildest dreams. Then how does it feel? You've got 130,000 people signed up.
Alhamdulillah, it feels amazing, and it's obviously a massive credit to every single person out there, which I want to say a massive thank you to signing, and especially the organizers at change.org who have helped, you know, push this through the social media channels and emails, and it's become obviously one of the biggest petitions right now. I was checking on change.org, it's featured on the top of the page now. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I feel really great.
We'll talking about that. We have our first caller in the evening, a gentleman by the name of Habib. We were expecting this. Good evening, Habib. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Right. Can you turn the volume down on your TV, please?
I haven't got a TV yet.
Right. Okay. If you could talk a little bit louder then, Habib, please.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Welcome. Right. I'm going to set you up. So there you were watching our program from last week. In the middle of it, I gave a shout out to this person who we never heard of before, Kashif Iqbal. Tell me what happened to you from there onwards.
And straight away, I thought, oh my God, I've got to get these two people together. And I thought, so I text you straight away, say that I know this person, he's related to me. And then I sent your show to Kashif. I think I'm under the impression that Kashif didn't know his name was mentioned. And he watched it, and I told him that you want him on the show, and I got you two to ring each other, and you weren't ringing each other, so I made sure you called him, and I told him he's going to call you, then you called him. Next thing I know, he's on the show.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I couldn't believe how excited. At first, it didn't register with me, you know, because you mentioned amongst your guests, Kashif, and I thought I didn't have a guest called Kashif. And then a few minutes later, the penny dropped. And I got so excited, I was so happy because, you know, and then it was only maybe a half an hour later, I thought, oh, I could invite him onto my show next time. So
what is amazing, I thought of both of you on the same day.
Really?
And then you sent the show, and then you mentioned his name.
Wow.
And I thought, this is destiny. These guys are going to meet. And you wanted him on the show, and I just gave his number straight away without even asking him, because I knew he'd be up for it. Because this guy's doing a great job, you know. And the petition, I signed it as well, and so did lots of others.
Habib, I'll give you a quick, if you want to make another comment quickly. I do have another
quickly.
caller. I need to go to
Yeah,
them.
I just want to say what's interesting is the Punjab regiment, in my view, was the biggest contribution in 2 world wars, especially the Second World War, and they were going to make the whole of Punjab with Pakistan. I met Sikhs in the VE Day celebration in 1995, stood next to a tank with Pakistan on their arm. And they even
A
divided
Sikh
that.
regiment with Pakistan on the badge on their arm. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So
In
Sikhs, I met Sikhs
England, some.
in England,
Yeah.
the VE Day celebration, 50 years of celebrating the end of the war,
Right.
stood next to a tank and it said Pakistan, and you know they were going to fight for Pakistan, but even then they changed the borders again, so they used them. And the Punjab regiment, if it wasn't for them, they would have lost the war. That's my view. And even in World War One, and after all this contribution, we gave our lives. They were dead in Brighton Beach in World War One. Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims died in the hospital from the injuries, and the Hindus and Sikhs got cremated. The only evidence left are the Muslim graves from World War One in Brighton.
So very quickly, to sum up on your behalf, presumably your point is that look at the sacrifices the Muslims, the Pakistani or ethnic minority communities have made to this country, and then to be giving this these proposals to expel them. That's what you're trying to say. Habib, really nice of you to call. Next caller, please.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Mohammed speaking.
This sounds like our favorite doctor from Birmingham.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Saab, welcome. Thank you very much for
I
calling.
listened to your program. You know, I don't know what is the exact topic. You mentioned democracy, and then you also mentioned about Sir Winston Churchill.
Right.
Winston Churchill's most famous legacy is victory sign, you know, where
Yes.
there's the
Yeah.
V sign.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned about languages spoken, you know, English, German, but I was listening to a program and I came to know that Spanish is the most widely spoken language in the world, you know.
That may well be, but also with regard to what we're discussing tonight in terms of Priti Patel's Clause 9 amendment and our guest Kashif, who initiated this petition. Have you signed this petition?
No, I haven't. I've
come
heard
on, you
about
must-
Priti Patel. She's Indian originally.
Yes, we know that, but what about the petition? Why is it, do you not feel strongly about this petition? Are you not worried about being possibly expelled from this country or having your citizenship? Are you a British citizen?
Yes, I am.
So are you not worried about possibly having your British citizenship revoked?
How can I work when I've lived here for a long time? But Priti
Well, that's the
Patel
point.
herself is Indian. She can be expelled from this country.
She can, you're absolutely right. Yes, you can, yeah.
But she made some controversy. I think she has come into controversy because, you know, she made some remarks that those who cross the French, this English channel came from France illegally, they should be sent back to France. And something like that.
She has become a very controversial figure. You're right, actually. Actually, our guest this evening has some some evidence about her controversial character. Kashif, you've done some kind of analysis, I think, on Priti Patel. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I will basically say, basically, Priti Patel, obviously, as you know, under the Theresa May government, she was fired. She had at least 14 secret meetings with the Israeli government at that time.
Yeah.
And when
14
Theresa May found out about
meetings.
Yeah, according to my knowledge of what I've read,
Okay.
she was fired on the spot because obviously you have to declare any meetings like that, and also
Yes.
she was trying to give British taxpayers money to Israel.
Yeah.
Now the irony is, you know, one of the provisions in the bill mentions that if your behavior is not conducive to the public good and it's against the values and ethics of this country, then we have basically a right to say goodbye to you, deport you. So I don't know if there's any humanitarian lawyers out there or someone that could possibly argue, well, is Priti Patel's behavior conducive to the public good, especially what she's done. She's been sacked from a front row position, but how was it possible she's back there again? Whereas if anyone else commits such a crime, I don't think he'd be holding an office, of such a high caliber, such a high level in the government. So it's quite
Well, it
shocking
seems
that
to
someone can
happen quite a lot
do
with senior
something.
politicians from all parties. I mean, Sajid Javid, I think, got sacked as well, didn't he? And he came back, and the
Yeah.
last Labour government, I remember a number of ministers quite often got sacked, and then they were back in government again. So it's a strange phenomena. But, you know, in terms of Priti Patel again, there is another petition you may be aware of, seeing you're the petition
I am.
specialist, Kashif, about, it's by a gentleman,
Getting attacked.
Indian gentleman, Raj Khalsa, he's called. He's
Yes.
asked for Priti Patel's sacking. Now, tell me what you
Yeah.
know about that and how that's developing.
I saw that and obviously change.org a few days ago, and a few people are forwarding it. Basically, obviously, he wants her to be sacked because obviously he doesn't feel that she's doing a good enough job, which I'm sure many people agree with, and he feels that Priti Patel is a liability to the government because of the many blunders she's had. If you look at this scandal first and foremost, and she's annoyed many senior civil servants in the government. So also obviously she's not caught in favour with the Sikh community at the moment, neither with the
Yeah,
Muslim community.
yeah,
So I don't think many people are happy with Boris Johnson's choice of making Home Secretary at the moment, and she was fired from the previous role of Foreign Secretary.
yes.
So yeah, that's what his petition, sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name, but that's what his petition aims to do. So they're somewhat similar, because obviously the petition I've done is talking about Priti Patel, because it was her office which started off this amendment, which is so draconian in its nature.
Yes. Okay. And also, there's another petition, no, an amendment proposal by David Davis, who's a member of the Conservative Party, quite a well-known high office figure. And am I right, Naz Hussain, who's the MP in Bradford,
Naz Shah.
Naz Shah, sorry, not Hussain, apologies for that. Naz Shah from Bradford has been, I think, forwarding that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
From what I know, there was obviously lots of WhatsApp messages, and I'm sure many people in the community have received these. But the message I got said that Naz Shah supports an amendment made by David Davis regarding the Nationality and Borders Bill. But what I just want to make your viewers aware is that basically the Nationality and Borders Bill is not just one provision,
Yes.
which obviously we're talking about today regarding the revoking of the British citizenship of ethnic minorities. It contains several provisions, such as regarding asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, and obviously the issue we're dealing with today. According to what I know, now I may stand corrected, David Davies, he basically proposed an amendment which is asking the government to not basically send migrants abroad whilst their case is being argued in this country. But I'm not aware of anyone challenging Clause 9, because specifically we're talking about Clause 9 on this program today, which impacts the ethnic minorities whose British citizenship can be revoked. Now, I've spoken to my MP in North Lanarkshire, Stephen, and he obviously told me today that he's brought this up in Parliament. But what Parliament have said to him, because there's been a massive backlog, obviously over COVID, then the Speaker needs to get back to him in Parliament as to when his when this petition can be heard. And he said he will definitely take it up with other MPs, which again goes back to what I said earlier, that really people need to get in touch with the MP and make a noise and make sure that the voice is heard regarding this issue. So it does become a major issue.
Okay. So, Kashif, again, going back to that 130,000, which we're hoping can go up to 150,000, let's hope it goes to 150,000. What can happen to that then? Let's look at two possible scenarios. One is the ideal scenario for you. What could possibly be the outcome of the hard work that you're putting in and others? And what could be the worst case scenario? If you are able to anticipate this?
Well, the worst case, I mean, is unfortunately that nothing happens. After all these signatures and all the noise we're creating, not much happens, and we're hoping that that doesn't happen. The best case scenario is obviously that we can get the bill amended in Parliament and it doesn't gain royal assent and it doesn't become law, because obviously it'll affect so many people.
Yes.
Now, according to Parliament, it's a bit unfortunate because you're trying to make democracy broad, but what they're saying is that only on the Parliament website, any petition that goes through the Parliament website is allowed to be debated in government if it goes up to 100,000 signatures. When I spoke
right.
to them, they said,
Can I just interrupt there? So that's a very important point, really. So the change.org petition is different from the petition on the Parliament website. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Just hold that thought, and we'll answer
saying.
that once we've taken this call. Who's on the line, please?
Hello, Mr. Faisal speaking. I spoke last week.
Mr. Faisal, welcome back, sir. Thank you. How are you? Thank you.
I'm fine. Yeah, I spoke to you last week. I put my question to you that the one is the people's got NICO card for Pakistan.
Yes.
Where do they stand? Does that become as a dual nationality, and the children born in this country?
Yeah.
What would happen to them though?
Whilst I'm not an expert on this field, I don't know if Kashif is, but from my understanding is they will be treated just the same way as anybody else. And in essence, should the law get passed or get the royal assent, as Kashif puts it, they can, in theory, have their citizenship revoked as well. But please remember, this is only if, certain criminal activities or if you break the law and so forth, and then this action can be taken. But the worrying thing is, Kashif, you expand on this, is that whereas previously, and this is what this clause 9 does, this amendment does, is whereas previously, if the government had such intentions, it would give you notification and you may have a right of appeal and so forth. Whereas now, if they were to get these powers, they need not, will not possibly give you such notification. And before you know it, your citizenship's revoked. Is that my correct interpretation?
Yeah, I'll just give you, that's right, Saj. I'll just give you an example of that. In 2018, there were 3 Bengali British citizens, whose British citizenship was revoked by the Home Office.
Right.
Now, they launched an appeal and they were successful in the High Court. And what the judge argued at that time, he said that when the Home Office acted, it acted illegally, which means that according to international law, humanitarian law, and even the law of this country, you cannot make a person stateless, meaning that they've got no other nationality. So at that specific moment in time when the Home Office revoked the citizenship of the Bengali people I'm talking about, they became stateless and they were still in this country. So obviously the Home Office had to abide by the ruling of the High Court. But what they've done now is, after 2018, they've gone back to the drawing board and now they're basically circumventing, right, what the High Court said. So like, okay, let's find a loophole. So what they're saying now is, under the guise of national security, right, of your behavior is not conducive to the public good, they're saying that we don't even have to give you a reason, as he mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Because see, all cases of national security, they're shrouded in secrecy, and the security services have little to no oversight, right? Because they always say we've got to protect our source. So if the Home Office says that due to national security, we're revoking your citizenship, whether or not you were born here, that's irrelevant to them. There is very little you can do, especially if you've got no notice. And let's say you're in Pakistan or Bangladesh or India, wherever you may be, when you're coming back to the airport, your passport isn't going to work. What are you going to do when you can't represent yourself in a British, court? You're basically in limbo. You're stuck. So what the government is doing, they're abdicating their responsibility. This reminds me, Sajid, it's a very ancient law.
Yeah.
They used to have exile and banishment. Back in the days where they just exile you and send you away.
Yeah.
This is what the Tory government is doing. It's basically washing their hands off you. But you're their citizen. You're born in this country. But there's a 2-tier system here. What the government is saying is essentially, and your viewers are probably agreeing to this, that if you're Caucasian and born in this country and your parents are from this country,
yes,
no matter what crime you do, you're safe. We will try you through the judicial system as it should be.
Yes.
However, if you're Asian or from an ethnic minority background, and
Yes.
as statistics show, if you're Muslim and your parents are from a different country, then I'm sorry to say you're a second-class citizen. That's not
Yeah.
me saying it.
Yeah.
That's what it's proven. Because, you know, when this bill came about, you know, a good few years ago, at that time there was only a handful of ethnic minorities whose British citizenship was revoked.
Right.
And within the last few years, there's been over 100.
Yeah.
Obviously, the most notable, of course, was Shamima Begum.
Yeah.
But recently it was Malik Riaz as well,
Yeah.
from Pakistan. So there's nothing to say within the next few years, it won't be thousands. But if we don't act now, that is the danger. You're giving them that power to say, well, we're not going to act. I mean, can you really afford to do that?
No. Yeah. Two thoughts come to my mind is firstly, why, what is behind the thinking? Why are they doing this? So that's one. The second is that, you know, and this came up in our discussions last week, Kashi, especially initially, Saj Karim, the former MEP, who spoke very eloquently and very knowledgeable guy, raised the issue that, you know, it's noticeable how the Labour Party leadership, you know, the traditional party of Asian voters, how quiet, how silent they've been about this. You know, nobody's come out. Yeah. But hold that, answer that please for me once we've taken this call. Who's the caller, please?
Assalamu alaikum, Taj Bhatt Sahab, is Khwaja Fahim Ahmed from Bradford speaking.
Khwaja Fahim Saab, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you very much for calling. Please tell us the point you wish to make.
I am a Conservative Party part secretary to the chairman of Conservative Party Yorkshire.
Okay.
And I've been all my life 40 years member of the Conservative Party with previous Prime Minister, and Boris Johnson, his close friend, Rishi Sunak. I respect Priti Patel is the best Home Secretary this country has ever had. This gentleman, Kashif Iqbal Saab, he's a young man, nice to see, the brilliant politician. I like him to go in politics.
So, sorry to interrupt. The subject matter is the petition. What is your views on the petition?
The petition is the best thing that's happened to this country. I've been living in this country all my life. I'm a disabled. I was a victim of crime in London.
Did I miss it? Sorry, I need to, for interrupting you. But did I miss it? I think you said Priti Patel is the best Home Secretary. Is that right?
She's my hero. I love her. I think she's the best Home Secretary we had.
And why is that, sir?
Because she's going to keep this country safe. You try to go to Saudi Arabia and Iran if you don't like this country. You are a Muslim.
We love this country. We want to stay here.
You abide by the law in this country. These Muslims who were Pakistani, who were abusing young English boys and girls.
Listen, calm down. Let's just have a nice debate and listen to each other's views. Okay? So, you know, the point we're trying to make is I can't quite understand. On the one level, you say petition is the best thing that's happened, and Priti Patel is your...
Brother, the petition is keeping this country safe. But, Saab, I admire your, as a reporter on this chat program.
Thank you.
You try to live in a Pakistani neighborhood and try to mix with people. I've been all my life very active in building mosques and the community.
I don't want to live. You know, I love living here. See my background. That's my hometown.
This young man, tell him that hundreds of young men like to run me over in Bradford.
We don't want to run you over. Well, we won't have you as a caller. Are you still there, sir? Oh, you've gone. Okay, well, we really appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Keep in touch. Please keep ringing because we want to hear alternative views because maybe we got something wrong. Clearly, 130,000 of us at least are worried about this. You're clearly not. So we want to understand why not. Kashif, your response to that then?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite surprised. I think anyone, what again was from the gentleman that obviously he too belongs to an ethnic minority background from what again, and I'm just quite surprised that if you are from an ethnic minority background, why you would not be shocked at this bill, which has been obviously put forward by Priti Patel, especially when it's targeting you. It's like, to be honest, me saying right now that I'm a fan of the BNP. You know, nobody would understand that, especially when they're against you. So yeah, I'm a loss of that. I mean, going back to your question earlier when you mentioned about the climate just before the caller called in, I think there's, you know, after 9/11, there's been a anti-Muslim, you know, very hostile climate around the world. When you mentioned why is this happening, and the media's fueled a lot of Islamophobia from, you know, America to India, if you look at Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Middle East, even in Europe, France, Germany, the UK, how are Muslims being treated? So it's nigh time that you have to stand up and, you know, fight for your rights through the democratic process. And we really do need people to engage. And especially what I'd say to the previous caller is, you know, we respect you, everyone obviously has difference of opinions. But you really do need to realize what the politicians are doing and, you know, familiarize yourself with the issues at hand. I mean, like you said, 130,000 people wouldn't be signing a petition if they thought it was a joke. So there's something very passionate about, which is also what we're trying to create awareness.
Before I forget, Kashif, you made a request, and it was a valid one, whether we could put the petition title on the screen. We can't, unfortunately, do that. But just for our viewers, for those who may be thinking, what's this petition they're talking about? How can I find out more about it, or how can I sign it? First and foremost, if you go to Google and just type Kashif Iqbal petition, you'll get it there, and you can then go on from there. Alternatively, my email address is on the screen, SAJ Mahal. Please note 2 L's at the back there, .com, SAJmahal.com. If you send me a message, I'll gladly send you a link. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. So, okay. Right. Where were we? Now, Kashif, I have to say I'm very impressed with your knowledge and so forth. And you've been very modest. When I first spoke to you and asked you what you do, go on, tell us what your day job is.
Well, I'm a barber. Yeah, simple barber.
Simple barber. That's what you said, very modestly and so
simple
forth.
Job.
So how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that for a few years now. Yeah, good few years. I learned it in London. Is
that something you always wanted to do, or is it just something you fell into?
I've always been, you know, passionate about, you know, making people look good, like, you know, male grooming. It's been a big market. So I didn't take it up fully, but then realized the potential when it came to Glasgow, especially, you know, that the market's growing. So much, it's a very relaxed job. I enjoy it, but at the same time, you know, I've got a degree in politics, which I did.
Well, that's what I wanted to come on onto you. Degree, you have a degree in international politics. Where did you study? Where did you study that, and when did you study that?
That was in London, and the reason I studied that is I've always been interested in politics, as I mentioned in the program when it first started. You know, I've been passionate about causes that impact and affect ethnic minorities, and I get that because I used to work in a masjid from the age of 17, where I used to teach Quranic, Arabic, and Islamic studies. No, that was in London. We moved out from Teesside when I was about 15.
Sorry. Whereabouts in Teesside? Whereabouts in Teesside?
This was Stockton-on-Tees.
Stockton-on-Tees, right. Hold that there. Another caller, please. Good. Hello.
Shabazz Shah.
Sorry?
It's Shabazz Shah.
Shabazz.
How are you doing, Baisaj?
Nice to hear from you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, great to hear from you. Go ahead, Shabazz.
I just want to start by saying how commendable it is that Kashif has started this, what I can only call a movement now. Inshallah, may it continue and bear fruit in the manner in which it's been presented to everyone. I wish him the best with that, and I'm a supporter of his petition, and I hope that many more people join him in that cause. I fundamentally find that this clause 9 is a completely racist aspect of the bill, where, as Kashif eloquently put it before, you're creating a two-tier system where for white Caucasian people of this country haven't got the fear of deportation or becoming stateless. And at the same time, people are born here, whether they're second, third generation, have that possibility of that happening to them. Now, I understand that they're saying it's due to criminality or something where that the Home Office can actually instigate such procedures. But even from just a normal citizenship level, it just seems completely unfair on all levels that a person could have that hanging over their heads if they ever got into a situation, because not all criminality is due to people actually going out there and committing crimes. Sometimes people get wrapped up in things that aren't of their making and could end up in that situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, very good point.
100%.
Very good point.
If I can just touch on that, Saj.
Please.
At the moment, to be honest with you, to put it quite bluntly, certain animals, like a dog, has more rights than you, right? I mean, you're not allowed to leave a dog astray on the street. A charity will take it in, they will house it, and then move it on to someone who wants to keep it.
Yeah.
Now, as a human being, what the government is saying is that if we think you've done something wrong, we're not going to give you even evidence. You can't even appeal. We'll literally kick you out and wash our hands away from you. How is that fair in this day and age? That doesn't even happen to animals. You can't even just leave an animal on the street to fend for yourself.
Very, very good point. Kashif, before we were interrupted with the call, I was asking you about following on discussions from last week, where some of the panelists, in fact, were stating how quiet, silent the leadership of the Labour Party has been on this. And I just wonder whether you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, see, with the obviously new Labour leadership under Keir Starmer, coming from Keir Starmer's own mouth, and this is documented in the media, in the Guardian, Telegraph, and all the other top medias. Keir Starmer is an ardent supporter of Israel Zionism, and I don't think, to be honest, you would get much sympathy from him, towards this petition or anything like this at the moment. And it's sad because, I mean, let's not even look at leadership that is not non-Muslim at the moment. I'm shocked myself, and I've been speaking to people close to me, that given the number of Muslim MPs or people in influence, in power, who are Muslim in this country, I have not seen anything of substance from them. I mean, tell me one person who's actually put up a motion themselves in a position of influence that said, hang on, as a Muslim, this is wrong. It's like one guy I was speaking to today. He said, good for you, Cash. I told him about this program. He said, if I was in your position, if I was a Muslim Asian born in this country, he goes, I too would be obviously very upset. But he goes, obviously I'm Caucasian born in this country. It doesn't impact me. So you're not going to take the same level of care as it would impact you.
Okay. Actually, we have another caller. Who's calling, please? Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
It's Shazad.
Shazad, sir. You're ringing from where?
Ringing from West Yorkshire.
Shazad, go ahead. What's your point, please?
Basically, I think we need to give a massive round of applause to Brother Kashi Iqbal for bringing this to the forefront. In terms of that bill that you were talking about, basically, it's just aimed at us specifically. And, we've been like, with I'm sort of the third generation here. And it's really scary that they're trying to bring this racist, Islamophobic law in through the back door. And what the Conservative Party have done, have actually got brown people bringing these laws in, so it doesn't look racist if they try to do them. And they're playing a very dangerous game. And this caller who came on before shouldn't be hoodwinked by these other things that happen in the UK, where a very small fraction may be committing crimes. The whole majority shouldn't be penalised for a small minority. It's just totally bang out of order. Suddenly, been living here for 50 years, we can be just made stateless illegally, and we've got no recourse to anything. It just doesn't add up. And we can't be, there's probably about 3 million Pakistani Muslims living in this country. We've been paying taxes all our lives, majority, and law-abiding, peace-loving citizens. So how can they just bring in through the back door? If we just sit still and do nothing, then they will.
Sorry, caller. Shazad, isn't it? Shazad.
It It is, yes.
Shahzad, I don't know if you saw our program last week.
No, I didn't actually. What it is, I've just come to my parents' house and I saw that and I was so happy because obviously I've been following the petition as well.
Okay,
and mashallah, really happy, and I thought, thank goodness.
You can go to YouTube, and if you just type SAJ Mahal, all the previous programs will come up. But you know, one of the things I, as the chair, if you like, mentioned when our guests, and tonight's happened as well, were encouraging us all to sign the petition, write to your MP, you know, demonstrate in whatever way you can. And this is a really sad fact to state. And I mentioned, look, you encourage us to do these kind of things. In the Iraq war, apparently over 1 million people demonstrated, and still they went ahead and did it. So what chance do we have? You know, we need to perhaps do even more than what we're currently doing. You know, perhaps, though we're so happy and proud of Kashif's petition, and we should be, rightly so, yet it may end up not achieving anything, and that's the sad tragedy. So, you know, what else do we need to do? Because clearly we need to fight this. Anyone?
I went to Dunkirk in about 2005.
Why did you go there, Shahzad?
We went to see the war graves there of the Allied soldiers, but one thing that sort of struck me, there's so many Muslim graves there, it's unbelievable.
Shahzad, but what made you go? What was it that you wanted to go?
But basically, we took some school children on a school trip, right? But we were never told about the sacrifice that our forefathers have made.
I see, right, okay.
Right, and basically it shocks you. There's like hundreds of thousands of graves there, which nobody talks about.
You see, these are the kind of narratives we need to highlight. Right. Nobody does. They're buried in history.
Yeah, and also another thing is my grandparents on both sides, they fought in the Second World War.
Yeah.
On both sides, right? I mean, my friend's great-grandfather fought in the First World War. So we've got a long history here. It isn't 50, 60 years old. It's over 100 years old.
Exactly.
And we have as much right as anybody else to be here. And how dare they try to bring this ruling just for the Muslims?
Yeah. Are you a teacher then?
I just want to add in there.
That's right, yeah. That's right, yeah.
Is that secondary school?
No, it's a junior school now. I did used to be in high school, but I moved to a junior school now.
Very good, excellent.
Well, alhamdulillah, it's good people like Kashif that we can support and work together and go through the proper channels. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. Really appreciate your call. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Any final comment you wish to make before you go? He's gone. Kashif, did you want to follow up that at all?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with him. Obviously, our grandparents, you know, forefathers have made massive sacrifices for this country, and they fought obviously with the Allied, you know, soldiers in the First and Second World War. And what one of the earlier callers was saying, it's so problematic that given that our grandparents have fought for this country and for the values, right, that their grandkids, us basically, you know, third generation, it's very sad that they can treat us in this way, where we're made to feel like migrants within our own country.
Yes.
You know what the irony is many people, like, I mean, I'm 38, 39 soon. Now, many people of my age group, they've probably been to Pakistan a few times. They're born and bred here. The irony is we don't fully identify with Pakistan, because when people say back home, yes, that's back home to our parents. That's where our roots are. But when you're born in this country, you've been educated in this country, you know, you work here, you pay your taxes here, you contribute here, and you probably die and get buried here, then this is your home. Why should you be treated as a second-class citizen? Why should you live in fear that if you commit a crime which the government deemed isn't conducive to,
and which
you know,
Shabazz made a very good
order?
Point that, you know, sometimes you're kind of part of the collateral damage, if you like. You know, it may not be your intention, you're not a criminal, but you get caught up in things.
Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, one of the examples of that people give till this day in the media is like Shamima Begum, because obviously when she went to Syria, she was very young age. Most people say naive, silly, ignorant, whatever. Obviously, we're not condoning what she did was right. You know, wrong is wrong, but that's a different argument. But a lot of people, you know, say as well that if she was Caucasian, would it have been a different outlook?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
exactly. So I mean, look at, for example, the recent example I gave of Malik Riaz, where he had his nationality revoked. Now that was on the grounds of obviously him committing fraud, and they said his behavior wasn't conducive to the public good. But how many other examples can you find in this country where people have committed fraud, but is their nationality revoked? No.
Yeah.
Why?
Amazingly, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Very quickly, I mean, one of the things, when we, you're right, when we were growing up I was 10 years old, Kashif, when I came here. So unlike you, I wasn't born here. And even I, don't really identify with Pakistan, believe it or not. There was a period of 15 years when I didn't go back, I didn't want to. I couldn't really relate to people and so forth, which is strange. But anyway, when we were kids growing up in this country, there were two major narratives really. One was, look, we're not going to stay here. We're only here for a few years. We're going to earn a bit of money, go back. Even when we got our carpet, people said, why are you wasting your money? You're not going to stay in this country. What a waste of money. We're going to go back. Yeah. And then the other narrative was, 30 seconds left, that, look, when they kick us out, you must buy a home, you must be land. I think Baroness Vasi's talked about something similar as well. I'm running out of time, Kashif. I need to thank you so very much. You've been absolutely fantastic. And, we'll keep in touch, no doubt. I need to thank all the viewers who've taken the trouble to ring and made those fantastic comments. Please continue watching, keep doing the things that we've talked about, and let's pray that this monster of a bill, this racist, allegedly racist bill, or will see the back of us. But I need to quickly mention that any views expressed in the program are not those views of Takbeer TV. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a really interesting, heated debate at times. I just like to say I will not be here next week. I'm going to take a week off and hopefully be back after another week's time. Thank you once again. Good night. Assalamu alaikum.